Hello and welcome to One on One. I am Cyril Stober. My guest today epitomizes the finer qualities of governance. He is a lawyer who was called to the bar in 2004. He's making a mark in politics, having been elected chief whip of his state assembly at age 31. He was at various times Commissioner for Agriculture, Economic Empowerment and Job Creation, and Commissioner for Human Capital Development. Now he is Commissioner for Information and State Orientation and doubles as Acting Commissioner for Human Capital Development, all in Ebonyi State. He's a one-time presidential nominee on the Council of the West African Examinations Council, WAEC. There's a reason for mentioning all of this. But first, let's welcome Orji Uchenna. Orji, thanks for being with us in One on One.
Thank you so very much.
There are so many things we haven't said about you, and looking at your background, you held many leadership positions, and it's thought that you got prepared for this early in life. We didn't, for instance, mention in the introduction that you went to secondary school as a gifted child and ended up being the senior prefect of your institution at that time. So you started cutting your teeth, as they say, in leadership positions right at an early stage. That's true?
Thank God for everything.
Right, okay, and now you've carried on with all of it, and you've contested into the Ebonyi State House of Assembly. You were chief whip for 2 years, 4 years, and then you went on to hold positions in the cabinet. Commissioner for Agriculture for 2 years, Commissioner for Human Capital Development 2 years, and now you're Information Commissioner. So we see that you're also doubling as Commissioner for Human Capital Development and Monitoring. Easily one would say perhaps the Ebonyi State government places some premium on human capital development. Is that true?
Yeah, quite true. The governance concept about governance is that we have two aspects of governance, and that is infrastructural development and human capital development. And it's addressing these two aspects of governance squarely, and that was why when he was elected and sworn in on the 29th day of May 2015, he had to develop a blueprint that cuts across human capital development, infrastructural development. And I think that upon development of infrastructure, you need to get a human capital to drive the infrastructure, to command the environment, to control the environment. Issue of investment, issue of having to do with employment, issue of having to do with self-reliance, self-sufficiency. It is a doing of human capital development, and actually it is one of the issues that African continent is lacking. As a continent, you know that in the whole of the countries of Africa, no one is said to be a developed country. And that is because the human capital index is not in our favor. And so he drives the two aspects of development. And that is actually what is favoring our state as I speak with you.
All right. You used to hold that position as Commissioner for Human Capital Development. Now you've moved on to information, but you still hold that position, that portfolio, in acting capacity. What does that tell us?
Well, to the glory of God, I think it's just a privilege from the governor, which I must justify. I will do my best to ensure that I carry out the very mandates of those two ministries. In the area of human capital development is to see how we can raise the psyche of our people, how we can also raise the capacity of the person, the human person, mental development or mental empowerment, financial empowerment, even psychological and moral empowerment. And aside this, in the area of information, how can I also combine that with information dissemination, letting the people know what the government government has done in the area of infrastructure and human capital development. So for me, it is really a task that God will help me to rise up to the challenge.
You don't see it as daunting because, I mean, this isn't a walk in the park, is it?
Well, by the grace of God, all powers belong to God.
All right. Okay, let's take a look at a few things about Ebonyi State, and you as Commissioner for Information would be in the best position to let us into what's been happening in Ebonyi. We don't know, for instance, that at the creation of Ebonyi State, it was thought that this was a state that was disadvantaged in many respects. Let's start from the premise of how Ebonyi has been able to shed the toga of, disadvantaged.
As a matter of fact, we were disadvantaged as a state in all ramifications in the area of education, health, even infrastructure. Like I did say, when we came on board in 2015, the governor really looked at all of these indices and saw that we are really at the bottom. And of course, coming from the part of Enugu and coming from the part of Abia in 1996, we are neglected. In fact, we had inferiority. We were wearing the clothes of inferiority complex because of the level of development we had at that time. So, but the governor, by the grace of God, has the calling of God. He came out through the mandate of what we call the Divine Mandate Platform. And God had prepared him. In fact, he came from the private sector. I became a party chairman for about 4 to 5 years, sorry. And the way he did, he used the opportunity to traverse across the length and breadth of the state. And God made him to become deputy governor, consecutively became deputy governor. And I became the first deputy governor in the history of the world to become governor when the master said he cannot be. Those that became governor, after being deputy was because their boss said, come and step into the shoe. But in his case, he was really surprised. He was not to be, but God said he must be, because God had a mission for him to discharge. So when he came, he developed a blueprint on how to tackle all the issues, the economic, socio-economic, and political issues in the state. Now he looked at infrastructure. He looked at environment, because environment does attract investment. He looked at also human capital. He looked at education. He looked at health, security, and all of that. So this became his critical sectors. So the way forward, he began to do things differently. So he saw the level of road infrastructure in our place, and also saw the texture of our roads, of our land, and now said that he was going to do what is called a concrete pavement, doing road with concrete. And I can tell you that no any state did that before him. He was the one that started it. He copied that from the United States of America. Now, as I speak with you, what he had to do was to design a road network, a road architecture that would favor agriculture, favor social life, creative industry, and all of that. Favor commercial, activities. So what he did was to now say, in all the 13 local government areas we have, there must be a linking road between the metropolis and the rural communities. So he had to give to every local government 25-kilometer concrete road. And where a bridge was required, he did that. Now, in the metropolis, he had to construct, or in some cases reconstruct, more than 500-kilometer roads in the metropolis, of course, including the satellite towns, we have across the state. Now, beyond that, he now felt also that because of the fact that some federal roads were in a shambles, he needed to fix them, because these federal roads are not being used by non-indigenous, they are used by Ebonians. So he had to fix the federal roads. If you are coming from Enugu to Ebonyi State, it's like a very beautiful, smooth road. If you are coming from Abia to Ebonyi State, it's the same thing. If you are coming from Benue, if you are coming from Cross River, it's the same thing, and everybody's attesting to that. Now, beyond this, it thinks that he should beautify the capital city, because, of course, Ebonyi was created in 1996, and the capital city was in poor situation. So as I speak with you, Ebonyi State is looking very beautiful. I think we have about 8 water fountains just to beautify the place, to attract creative industry. And we now have the biggest water fountain in Africa. It's something that you need to see for yourself. Now, beyond this, the governor, within 3 years of coming on board, had to construct what we call flyover. Before then, no state in the southeast was, known for flyover, except Anambra that has a flyover, but trucks cannot fly through the flyover, except small cars. Then within 3 years, the governor had to do 3 gigantic, I think it's 18 span each flyover, well beautified with aesthetic, facilities, better than any other in terms of beauty than any flyover in Nigeria you can talk about. Now, beyond that, the governor also had to build what is called a President Mohamed Buhari light tunnel. This tunnel is a 4-way tunnel that links to our major facilities. Now, this tunnel in the night is just a beauty to behold. It's just like heaven on earth, and that is the biggest tunnel ever in Africa, built by any government. Now, within the area of that very tunnel, you will see Africa's biggest ecumenical center, most beautiful ecumenical center, having about 10,000 seating capacity, what we call the main ball. Now, the smaller ball has about 2,000 seating capacity with a lot of facilities, including lift and all of that. So now, this ecumenical center is like a multifunctional edifice, that is used for ecumenical purposes and also for social purposes. Now, within the area, you have what you call a shopping mall, a Boeing shopping mall. That shopping mall is like, we call it the microcosm of the macrocosm of the Dubai Mall. It's really fashioned after the Dubai Mall. But I can tell it's the biggest mall ever built by any government. You see ShopRite in Enugu and other places, they are not owned by government. But this is the first ever biggest shopping mall built. This is within the light tunnel. Now we have another edifice that is the national market. This national market is the biggest in the southeast, one of the biggest in Nigeria. It is located along the Trans-Sahara Highway, linking through Cross River. And these are the facilities within the tunnel that you can access through the tunnel.
All right. Listening to you reel out these infrastructure, the development, the question one would ask here is, where is Ebonyi finding the money to put up these structures? And I am asking this because it's seen as this is an era where many states in the country depend almost solely on what comes from the center. People have criticized that so much. States derive their major source of revenue is from waiting on the sharing of that national cake in Abuja every month.
Yeah, that has been a source of concern for the governor. But I agree with you. I concede that Ebonyi State has one of the least allocation profile, and our internally generated revenue is also very low as I speak with you, but that is what the governor is really addressing. But the secret behind this is the passion to work for the people, to work selflessly, the way they do in advanced countries. When you are coming to public service, that's the idea of the governor, you are coming to serve the people. So every allocation, every revenue generated, every taxpayer's money is being deployed for the construction of facilities for the people. And so prudence is very, very critical. And monitoring and evaluation, we don't have waste. We have zero tolerance for waste in finances. And a lot of all his lieutenants have also shown commitment by ensuring that they work day in, day out. There's nothing like 8 to 4 o'clock in civil service. Everybody must work to ensure that a table is cleared. So that is what is bringing about the productivity, the service that the governor is rendering to the people. But then the governor is conscious of this fact that one day the oil will extinguish, or one day we may have a reason to have issue of a true federalism. And so we are developing a lot of facilities that will help us survive after oil, that will help us really increase in the IGR. And that's why I have mentioned a lot of infrastructure that we are putting on ground. Now, beyond this, we are developing one of the best airports that is patterned after Lagos and Abuja. I think my governor was the first under the Buhari administration to secure approval to do airport, and it's going to be one of the best. It's sitting on 4 by 4 kilometer land with about 3.5 runway. This is one of the best in Nigeria. Now, beyond this, the governor, in addition to the reconstruction of the stadium, which he did, that makes it to be the best stadium in the Southeast, he's doing another ultra-modern, stadium that is going to be one of the best in Nigeria. So these facilities, the idea of the governor is that it's going to attract investment, it's going to attract a lot of commercial activities. And the governor is also, is trying to organize the private sector, by giving them a lot of incentives, a lot of motivations that will make them come into Ebonyi State. The environment is one of them, security system is one of them. And so these are the things that the governor is addressing to ensure that we are not caught up by.
Right. How much collaboration does the Ebonyi State government initiate with the private sector? Now that you talk about it, the private sector, how much participation does the private sector put in into the development of the infrastructure and other facilities in Ebonyi?
Yes, a matter of fact, we do a lot of collaborations. We collaborate with federal government. Unfetteredly, we collaborate with private institutions. We collaborate with public institutions. In the area of private sector participation, we have given a lot of incentives. We have done the roads. Like I did say, the governor, beyond the roads I've mentioned, he's doing what is called ring road to connect the 9 original local government areas in Ebonyi State. And the idea is to see how we can make the farmers in the rural communities to have access to market. Now, beyond this, there's what is called Rural Access Agricultural Road Project. That is what they call RAMP. So the governor is liaising with necessary development partners to see how we can also use the funds, available funds to develop a road at the rural community. So we are liaising and working, intensively with private sector. And some of these facilities, when we build them, we give it out either on PPP basis or operate and transfer basis. And this has attracted a lot of investment in Ebonyi State.
We'll take a short break from the development of infrastructure and go somewhere else, which you yourself have thrown up in answering one of the questions, and that is agriculture. You held that portfolio at one time as Commissioner for Agriculture, and now you have mentioned about opening up the rural areas, road construction, ensuring that there is access from the rural areas to the urban centers, and you talked about agricultural access. What is the position of Ebonyi when we talk of agriculture? What is Ebonyi beating its chest about today and say, look, knowing what we have added value in terms of agricultural production?
Thank you so very much, Cyril. I can say that Ebonyi State is an agrarian state. So when the governor came on board, he actually appreciated this advantage we have. But then we had a lot of issues, resulting to droughts among farmers, and other entrepreneurs. Now the governor had to really develop a blueprint on agricultural development. First of all, he started with what is called 1 man, 1 hectare agric policy. What does it mean? What it means is that whether you are a farmer, whether you're a civil servant, public servant, businessman, or doing any business whatsoever, even security agencies in Ebonyi State, you need to go into agriculture. Now, in doing that, the idea is that you should have nothing less than a hectare of land. Even if you are into poultry or into fishery, the value of what you are investing should be like that of 1 hectare of land. At that time in 2016, when that was launched, our benchmark was like 250,000, per hectare. Now, the idea of the government is that if you are doing 1 hectare farming, especially in rice production, you should be able to make up to $500,000 naira, And if you are doing 2 seasons, like we did introduce dry season farming, you should be making or hitting up to 1 million naira. So the government now encouraged even civil servants. And do you know what he did? He had to roll out 4 billion naira for civil servants, for them to assess. You can assess from 200,000 up to 1 million, depending on the number of years you're going to stay in the civil service, or of course, or your level. Now, this they have continued to assess up to now as I speak with you, 4 billion naira. Now, the governor now gave a priority business is agriculture or agro-related matter. So we are looking at primary production, secondary production, and tertiary production. And the governor also does encourage even the security agencies. There was a time he rolled out 80 million 60,000 naira for wives of security officials. Our target was non-indigenous wives of security officials, just to encourage them so that they can, complement the efforts of their husband, and that way they can be motivated to really police our communities. So these are the things the governor is doing, and the governor also has rolled out a lot of empowerment program in agro-related matters. Now, coming to other things that he has done, the governor also introduced mechanization of agriculture. Before we came, it was like agriculture by peasants, peasant farmers. Now the governor had to introduce mechanization. First of all, he bought 13 bulldozers. I'm sure no state has ever bought 13 bulldozers. No government has ever done that. Now he bought it, do you know the sense? To use it to develop the land development, to enable mechanized agriculture to thrive. Now the governor also bought 40 tractors and gave it to individuals free of charge, and bought other implements so that they can practice, mechanized agriculture. And in doing that, the governor also believes that mechanized agriculture goes with commercial agriculture. Commercial agriculture means that you can do more than 1 hectare of land, but the minimum should be 1 hectare of land. So he had to divide, farmers into 3 groups. We have the cooperatives, we have the individual farmers, we also have the commercial farmers. So you can now come, if you want to be a commercial farmer, you can now access much more funds, provided there's an evidence that they are into commercial farming. So this is what the governor did. But beyond this, the governor also said that there must be facilities. He had to really upgrade the fertilizer blending plant to have. Before he came, it was 40 metric ton per hour fertilizer company. But it was not working, so he had to reactivate it. He had to rehabilitate it, and had to really interface with the federal government. And but it was a factor in the fertilizer agri-production. And now the governor had to upgrade the fertilizer blending plant and doubled it. And it became a plant with 80 metric ton capacity, and it's the biggest. The only in the south is one of the biggest in Nigeria, and of course the area of interest is south. So it has the capacity to feed or to satisfy the fertilizer needs of the southeast and south. Now the governor also looked at the waste that we get from rice. I said, yes, there is need for us to really introduce a program that is called Waste to Wealth, program. So in doing that, he had to procure or establish what is called pulverization plant. Pulverization plant is a plant that turns waste into wealth, so that all the grasses that you get from the farm, all the rice husk, all the waste from rice, you can now use it and get other byproducts. That way, the living standard of the peasant farmer will increase. And it's about 200 metric ton capacity pulverization plant, 200 metric tons. I think it's about one of the 2 biggest in Nigeria. And the idea of the governor is that by the time it is fully fixed, he will give it out to a private sector to manage. Now the governor came back to where we have a comparative advantage, rice production.
All right, and that's a big one that
yes.
You wanted to. I was going to leave that for the time being. But yes, rice. It seems to be the biggest talk.
Yes, the governor felt that the farmers will be assisted, will be encouraged so that they can go back to the farm. So he had to really reactivate the rice processing plant that we had at that time. That plant had 5 metric ton capacity per hour. They were 3 in number. So he had to reactivate them because they were not working. But beyond that, the governor had to fix what is called parboiling plant, so that the plant can now parboil rice, because in Nigeria we eat rice that is parboiled and processed. In some other places like Nigeria, they don't parboil before processing. So the governor bought this, and is about the only at that time in Nigeria parboiling plant. It's about 8 metric ton capacity per hour each one. So the 3 of them put together is 24 metric ton capacity. Now the governor feels that these 3 rice milling plants are not enough for the people of indeed the people of Nigeria. So he had to go to Uchenna and procure 3 other, additional rice milling plants. But he had to, procure, a smaller size. And each of these that he procured is 3 metric ton capacity, and still procured another 3 number parboiling plant that has 4 metric ton capacity per hour. Now this is in addition to the milling cluster that gave us a name in the whole of Africa as the state with the highest number of rice milling clusters, about 1,500 number rice milling clusters. It's about the biggest, up to now, about the biggest. So we now have an advantage in the area of processing in rice production in the value chain, because we don't have enough land. So our advantage is in the processing. And that's what we have done in the area of rice production. Now, the governor thinks that we should have our own areas of advantage in agriculture. So apart from rice, cassava is one of them. Cassava is one of them. So the governor also procured cassava plants, for our farmers. And these cassava plants were given to cooperatives, to manage.
You mentioned about a certain fund which is available to civil servants who wish to go into agricultural production. They could access loans depending on how much time they had left in the civil service and pay back such loans. I'd like to ask this because it usually is a problem when loans are given out. What is the repayment rate you have in Ebonyi, and how do you ensure that these loans are paid back?
Yeah, it is so structured in such a way and manner that it is going to be convenient to the beneficiaries. Now, what the governor did is to ensure that the interest rate is single digit, between 5 and 9 digit interest rate. And now it's so structured that it's going to be repaid back. Of course, we have a rule on how a civil servant can get loan. So not more than 30% of their salary will go into servicing the loans throughout the period of their stay, depending on the amount that you are assessing. So it is not made it's not something that is a big burden to them. But above that, the governor also ensures regular payment of salaries to farmers. And it's about one of the first, if not the first in Nigeria, to pay the minimum wage. He paid on the 10th of January this year. And he has already paid the date of February. Normally he pays 15th of every month, salary of civil servants.
Well, yes, now that you speak of the subject of the civil service, we hear all the time politicians, executives complain about the size of the bureaucracy and the civil service, and many states are always up in arms when there is a review of the salaries of civil servants. How has Ebonyi fared so far with its civil service, knowing that all these things you have listed out in terms of policy must be driven by the bureaucracy? And of course, it is the civil service that will drive these changes and achievements that you talk about. How professional is the Ebonyi civil service? What is the relationship in terms of the civil service and the administration? I'd like to talk about your industrial relations. Is it peaceful in Ebonyi, especially when it comes to salaries and allowance?
I can tell you that the civil servants in Ebonyi State are at peace with our governor. The governor has really done tremendously well in the area of welfare for the civil servants. First of all, the issue of training and retraining, he doesn't joke with it. The governor believes that productivity is very, very key, and you need to motivate these civil servants. So by training and by giving them necessary welfare packages, and also by reward system. Reward system is a tradition in Ebonyi State, and that has motivated the civil servant. And beyond the salary that is being paid regularly, we are not owing, and we are paying, like I said, half of the month we have paid. The governor pays what is called 13th month, having in mind that usually in the East, Christmas activities, end of year activities will really be a burden. So the governor pays 13th month. And apart from that, we have our rice. We normally give them rice and other welfare packages, so they go home, with happiness. But beyond this, the governor feels that promotion is also very critical. So those that deserve promotion, he gives them, and make sure that all the rules in civil service are followed. That's why they even gave him a title. I say, Enyindoro means a friend of the workers, and he has never had a problem with the workers to date as I speak with you. They are very happy with him. And what's more important is that whatever the governor is doing for youth and women, even the civil servants are also included. If I may talk about human capital development, where he is giving empowerment, like empowerment he gave, tricycle, 250,000 after training, and all of that. Some civil servants are part of it. Now, this 4 billion naira that he gave, the civil servants are enjoying it. So there's no room for industrial disharmony for any reason at all.
All right, at the start of this program, we said you were a gifted child in school. You went on to study law in the university, and we like to talk about education in Ebonyi. You were a presidential nominee on the Council of WAEC, and at this point, one of the challenges in Nigeria's education system is at the grassroots level, the primary level. What is the state of primary education in Ebonyi?
I can tell you that the governor has done tremendously well. When he came, at that time we were educationally less privileged, so he had to swing into action. And his target was primary education, because he knows that primary education begets secondary and tertiary education. And so what he did was to ensure quality education by constructing more classroom blocks, by renovating classroom blocks, and training of teachers. Monitoring is also important. His monitoring and evaluation mechanism goes to every sector. So he monitors also the teachers, monitors them to see that they do the right thing. Now, the governor also thinks that under the Catch Them Young policy, that these pupils need to be really given the necessary food, quality food that will bring about nutrition, that will develop their brain for them to learn. So he had to introduce what he calls school agricultural program. What does it mean? Every school is given nothing less than 1 million naira, to go into agriculture. You can choose to go into vegetable, production, go into poultry, go into rice farming, or as the case may be. Now, when you do that, the food you produce from that your farming activity can be used to feed the pupils. Now, incidentally, that coincided with the federal government school feeding program. So in the school feeding program, what it means is that the pupils are fed so that their brains will be developed. Now, we now get from the school agriculture, the produce of that agricultural program to now feed the students. So it becomes very, very good. Now, apart from this, the governor also said that training of teachers, equipping of teachers, with relevant instruments, academic instruments, is very, very key. So he had to really ensure that through the collaboration of UBEC, that the teachers are really equipped. Now, the governor had to introduce another thing, that is what is called BESDA. BESDA is really a policy or a program of the UBEC, of federal government, together with the World Bank. And in doing that, the governor, as I speak with, is funding that program with 7.6 billion naira. Now, the areas of interest is how to really, furnish the teachers, with the necessary equipment, how to really give them capacity, and also to ensure enrollment of pupils, especially out-of-school children. So this policy is geared towards taking out-of-school children, taking them away from the street and pushing them back to school. And they will be given scholarship. For them, scholarship is compulsory. It's compulsory. Education is compulsory, and it's free. And the governor has really charged all the necessary stakeholders, what we call the development centers. There's a structure we have in the state. Apart from the local government, we also have a structure down the rural community that is called development center. So the leaders, that is the coordinators, who are charged to ensure that they give account of what they are doing on a daily basis in the area of taking away these children from the street and pushing them back to school. And they are meant to enjoy scholarship. Now, the governor also introduced, which I may speak perhaps subsequently, he introduced other programs, the vocational education, the gifted children education, so that these children can be picked at that young level and be brought and be given scholarship, be given intensive education. And the governor also had to introduce adult education too. That is for the adult, but I'm going to speak about that with time.
Well, okay, the vocational training, perhaps we'll tie that up with secondary education. Now, we started off at the primary level. The next level of education, the secondary education. How well have we done here?
Secondary education is also inclusive in the educational policy of government of Ebonyi State. The governor has also done the same thing by ensuring training of teachers, and ensuring that they do the right thing. They are being monitored. The curriculum is studied to be sure that they are doing the right thing. And we have what is called school evangelism. What is this school evangelism? To bring about moral education to the students, because most of these cases are of cultism. Some of those vices are learnt at the secondary school level. They are dominant at the secondary school level. So the governor has introduced the kind of education that, policy that encourages quality education. And in doing this, the governor also makes sure that the right teachers are teaching, and the right curriculum is given, and even the the private education system is integrated into the curriculum of the public education system. And so that has really affected our educational profile. Let me tell you something. Between 2017 and now, Ebonyi State has steadily been between first and 10th in the education index of WAEC in terms of performance. First and 10th state. That has continued to be from 2017 to today. Now, let me tell you, NUC had their education index in 2017 about the local government out of the 774 local government areas with the highest number of students admitted in school. Do you know what happened? Ebonyi State became the state with the local government that has the local government that produced the best. The highest number of students. Now they went also and did their index on the best medical student. Somebody that took did the medicine in JAMP, and they arrived at one person, the best medical student that got admission into university in 2017, and behold, an Ebonyi person. So these are signs that the quality of education in Ebonyi State is increasing. Of course, the governor has been giving a lot of incentives to students, ensuring that they have recreation, ensuring that sporting activities increase, ensuring that where necessary, that cost of school fees is reduced.
Well, as you mentioned earlier on, not everyone goes on to the university. You talked about vocational training, and how has that applied to the hordes of students who cannot get placements into tertiary institutions? And of course, those who have a genuine calling for vocations. After that, we'll talk about tertiary education.
As a matter of fact, the issue of human capital development spurred our governor to develop vocational education. And the target in this vocational education, one, is those that could not continue after their secondary education. Two, those that have talents, of course, that have secondary education background. And three, those that are into vocational trades, artisans, craftsmen, technicians, and some of them are in the street, but they don't have the certification. They don't have also the skill, the adequate skill, because they are like unskilled or semi-skilled artisans. So they are now brought through a very seamless process, brought to vocational school. Now they are trained for a period of time, depending on the nature of the trade that they have chosen to do. Now, this is what is going to encourage human capital development, so that people can be self-reliant, so that the private sector also can really gain prominence. And in doing that, again, the governor also introduced this issue of gifted school, gifted children. What is gifted children? That in each local government will have not more than 5 children who have just passed their primary school. Now, we assess them based on the continuous assessment of their school. We also assess them based on a very dispassionate, examination. And the best will be selected, whether the son of the richest or the son of the poorest, you'll be selected. And the government takes over your scholarship, everything about your schooling, even everything about your holiday. Government takes over it. The school has just commenced. And they are to be trained from secondary to university. And of course, they will be guided in the area of choice of their career. Now, the governor also thinks that those that had no opportunity of going to school at all, who are already adults, who cannot go back to primary school, should have the privilege of having adult education. This adult education is targeted at businessmen, because we have a number of commercial activities going on. We have a lot of markets going, in Ebonyi State. So this adult school is cited in those institutions, so that you can just walk over to that school and have your certificate and become, even though you're a businessman without certificate, you should be able to know how to read and write and be a certified scholar or something.
How much is the Ebonyi State government investing in tertiary education?
Yeah, tertiary education, you need to know that we have Ebonyi State University. What government did as one of its first interventions in tertiary education was to reduce the school fees of the students of Abuja State University. Now, Abuja State also has what we call Equal College of Education. It's also a state-owned college of education. These are the three tertiary institutions we have. So the government gives them what we call subventions. I think between 200 million naira, between 200 and 250 million naira subvention every month the government gives them. The government also assists them from time to time to ensure that they don't have issues. So these are the things that government is doing, and of course monitors what they are doing to ensure that they play by the rule.
Health is wealth, and it's a known fact that one of the challenges the country grapples with is health, led to a high rate of what is now known as medical tourism. We'd like to look at Ebonyi State and the health profile of this administration, the current administration in Ebonyi State, as to provide health services, affordable health services to the populace.
Yeah, thank you. Before the governor came on board, we had issues with health. Our primary healthcare system was in a shambles. Of course, the tertiary and the secondary health system we are in a shambles. So the governor had to take the bull by the horn again and had to ensure that necessary renovations were made in the existing structures in the primary healthcare system and, of course, the secondary healthcare system. So the governor had to ensure that each of the wards has what is called primary health care facility, so that the rural communities, the rural dwellers can have access, the pregnant women, people with one or two type of sicknesses can have an access. Now, beyond that, the governor had to really furnish the secondary hospital, that we have. Talking about the general hospitals. Every local government area has a general hospital, where that was started before this administration or before his administration. But when he did, he had to complete, and he has started to furnish the general hospital. So whatever you cannot get at the tertiary, at the primary level, you can get that at the secondary level. Now, beyond that, the governor is also collaborating with what we call the FETA, that is a Federal Teaching Hospital, in Ebonyi State, giving them necessary assistance, necessary interventions, including building of what we call emergency block, which is going to be one of the best in the Southeast. Now, the governor also is building what we call a College of Medicine. And the idea of the governor is to attend to those rare sicknesses, those rare ailments, cancer cases, and all of that, liver problems, and all of that. Now, as I speak with you, experts have come, they have really evaluated the place. We are sure, pretty sure, that before the governor bows out, Ebonyi State will be the destination. There's no need going to India or to China or to anywhere for you to have yourself treated, even as a big man. The destination will be Ebonyi State. The standard. It's a huge one. It's going to be the best in Nigeria. College of Medicine, the best in Nigeria. That is the target of the governor. Now, the governor also, bearing in mind of some of these, natural emergencies, talking about Lassa fever and all of that, the governor had to build a virology center. That virology center is the only in the Southeast and one of the best in the Federation. And cases of Lassa fever have been brought to the place and have been managed, have been treated.
Right, because right now, Lassa is everywhere. Even as the world talks about coronavirus, the main concern in the first instance in Nigeria is Lassa fever, which is going round. How prepared is Ebonyi, or how has Ebonyi fared in containing Lassa fever? And in the bigger picture, when we have global challenges like of recent with coronavirus?
The governor acts proactively in all of these circumstances. Let me start with the coronavirus, the latest one. What the governor did was to declare state of emergency within the state and now identify the exit points and the points of entrance to Ebonyi State. And if you are a Chinese, for instance, you will be quarantined. The facilities are there in about 10 points, so you'll be quarantined. And if you are a stranger too, somehow there has to be, a way of really, checking on you. And the governor also has introduced intensive orientation processes by all the council chairmen to really sensitize the people on the symptoms of this coronavirus. Now, the issue of Lassa fever that I did tell you, we have a facility that takes care of it. So you wouldn't need to travel to anywhere outside Ebonyi State for you to get treated. So most of the cases, I can say that we have had 90% success. It's only a case that was not brought to the notice of government that might not be solved. But all the cases that were brought timely were really addressed and solved. And people are really testifying, to the fact that the virology center has helped a lot in reducing mortality rate of victims. Now, let me tell you one thing. The World Bank had an assessment of maternal mortality rate of each state, and now paid particular attention to Ebonyi State. And Ebonyi State was said to have a very favorable maternal mortality rate. That is one of the achievements of our governor. And when World Bank compared it to even the one we have at the federal level, the World Bank said that Ebonyi has a better mortality rate than that of the federal. So these are the indices of health development in Ebonyi State. These are factors that are showing that we are really getting it correct in Ebonyi
Well,
State.
we're inching gradually towards the end of this program, but there are two very important issues which we would want you to speak on. And first has to do with security. Nigeria faces huge security challenges. If we talk about the insurgents in the northeast, in all other parts of the country, cases of kidnappings, we also have, we are still grappling with the issues of ethnic violence and things like that. How is Ebonyi insulated from this?
Yeah, thank you very much. You need to know that Ebonyi State has the lowest insecurity profile. If you ask people, they will tell you. And there are reasons for this. The governor is very proactive. The governor is nationalistic. The governor believes in one Nigeria. Now, what the governor has done is to give our people orientation. Well, we should know that we are one. If we are talking about ethnic conflicts, the governor has to resolve all the issues of conflict in the communities within Ebonyi State. And I give them an impression, a psych, that we are one. We are one Ebonyi State. And in Nigeria, that we are one Nigeria. But beyond this, the governor feels that keeping youths and women idle is not going to be the solution. So issue of education is critical. Issue of empowerment is critical. Empowering our people. So what the governor did was to introduce an empowerment program that is really impacting on the people. Now, the first case was empowerment of 3,000 number youths and women with 250,000. After training them in agricultural programs, they were trained in skills too, and they were empowered 750 million in the whole, free of charge. Now, the governor also looked at widows, because widows, mothers, they have a lot to do in controlling the children. So the widows were trained and empowered with 100,000 each. That is 400,300,000 because they were 4,300 in number. Now, the governor also went to Lagos and got Ebonyans in the streets of Lagos hawking and said, no, this cannot continue. For a start, he rolled out 130 million and empowered 520 people on equality of local government, 40 per local government for a start. Now, that was after they were trained, because in all of this training would confess capacity building. Now, the governor gave them this money so that they can go away from the street and, get away also from the temptations of being in the street. The governor went to Anambra and did the same thing, brought out the people that were into barrow pushing, even some that were into IPOP, that repented, some into Okada riding. He gave them tricycle worth 650,000 just to upgrade their living standard. These are the things that the governor is doing. Now, some people, some of the youth, the governor bought Sienna to enable them go into farming so that they can be evacuating farm produce. Now, the idea of the governor is that if these youth and women are busy, there will be nothing like insecurity, and that's what we are really seeing in Ebonyi State. Ebonyi State, as I speak with you, is a construction site. Everybody is busy. If you go to one local government, you see Ebonians, youths, women, in their thousands doing one thing or the other by their hands, because the governor refused to allow expatriates, to have the contracts in Ebonyi State. Most of the works are done under direct labor, and Ebonians are really deployed to do this work. It's both skilled, semi-skilled, and non-skilled. They are working. By the time you are through for the day, you go and do what? You sleep. As a commissioner, I can walk in the streets of Ebonyi and nothing happens because the people are busy. But beyond that, the necessary facilities need to be there. And those are the issues, the lessons that we need to learn. Do you know that in Ebonyi State, we have street light that is non-stop from 6 to 6? I'm telling you, I stand to be contradicted. It cannot stop. I don't know the secret. The governor has the secret. And this is at least 20 kilometers in each of the local government areas. But within the metropolis, it's just a beauty to behold. So even in the midnight, you'll be walking. If you like sleep on the road, nothing happens. And that is really the kind of governor we have. And I think I must mention that our governor is an exemplary governor. I call him a man with the 3 E's of leadership. He has the exposure, he has the experience, he has also the education. Okay. But the passion is what drives him. And that is why even in national politics, you see his position, he believes that we are one. He believes that whatever we can do to have a virile, prosperous, egalitarian nation, that is going to promote that. Okay. And that is what he has been doing.
All right.
As a governor.
Since you're into politics now, I must ask you this, Commissioner. You were a state legislator. You were chief whip of the State House of Assembly. It's believed generally that state legislatures are virtually in the pockets of the executive. They only do the bidding of the governors. Was that true of your tenure as chief whip?
It was not the case in my tenure and in Ebonyi State as a whole. From 1999, that democracy came in Ebonyi to date. We've enjoyed a working relationship amongst the 3 arms of government.
In other words, you'd say that the Ebonyi legislature is not a rubber stamp.
Yeah, we are not. Right. What is important in all of this is leadership. Leadership from the executive angle and leadership from the legislative angle, of course, the judiciary. And your ability to understand yourself. Yes, we operate the presidential system of government, whereby we have, the 3 arms, whereby we have their powers, their privileges, their limits separated under the Constitution. And so all you need to do is to know where your right ends and where it starts. And that is what we are doing in Ebonyi State. For the legislature in Ebonyi State, we believe in checks and balances. We believe in separation of powers. We believe in the rule of law. What is this checks and balances? Checks and balances means that, after all legislations are made, the House of Assembly needs to really monitor what the executive is doing. And in doing that, you have to do it with understanding. You have to do it with respect, knowing what the provision of the Constitution is all about. And you know that lawmaking starts from the executives, especially when you have executive bill. It starts from executive and ends with the legislature. What do I mean? Conceptualization about budget.
All right.
Planning about budget starts with the executive. It is transmitted to the House. The first, second, third reading will be done. Then it will be transmitted back to the executive by way of passing a bill into law.
I wish we had all the time in the world to talk about all this. Yeah. But again, we'd just like to thank you and say it's been interesting talking to you. Orji Uchenna Orji, lawyer, politician, and currently Commissioner for Information and State Orientation, as well as acting Commissioner for Human Capital Development, Ebonyi State. We'd like to thank you for coming on One on One.
Thank you so very much.
We hope to ask you to come again so we can look at some of these areas you have enumerated and see how much progress has been made.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you also.
I appreciate it, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
And that's our program today. We thank you for watching. Next week we'll reach you again on One on One. I am Cyril Stober. Bye for now.